everybody, welcome back. In this video, we are going to be talking about the incoming OTA changes. We've been doing these videos pretty much every week, talking about what cards we think are going to be changed. I'd love to hear which ones you've got on your list in the comments below. Let me know, and let's go through these. So I've got a spreadsheet where I sort of track these things that I'm putting on here for each different video. I did a number of them before. All these green ones have actually been changed. We've got Sandman, Orca, Drax, Enchantress, Rock Slide. A couple other ones we mentioned that got changed were Death, Shauna, Collector. Last week we had Dazzler, Spectrum, and Nick Fury on the list. I'm not sure those are going to happen soon, but a couple of these that we've got on these lists we still sort of want to see and emphasize in this particular video. The first one that we add that we want to keep mentioning is Hawkeye. We do have a lot of strong one cards in the game right now, so I'm not certain I wanted to keep this one on the list, but I figured, you know what, one more doesn't necessarily hurt. Hawkeye is one of the least seen cards in the game, along with Atu the Watcher, Strong Guy, Snowguard, Stegron, and Dazzler. Atu the Watcher and Strong Guy are the only other cards on this list that are actually not newer cards. This is always a prime spot to be looking for a card that needs some improvement. For Hawkeye, still just looking for a minor change to 1-2 for now. Not much higher on this list is the next card we want to keep talking about is Nakia. For Nakia, we're just looking to change from a 3-2 to a 2-2, potentially giving yourself the opportunity to play it with some other cards. The last of the previously mentioned ones is going to be Spectrum. While I think she does have a spot in the game at this level, I think she's a little weak, so I'd look for a slight buff still here from 6'5 to maybe 6'6 or 6'7. The first new card we're going to talk about on the list is going to be Red Skull. He had a bunch of nerfs, and I think it's time to bring those back. And this was even asked in the Discord, and Glenn confirmed that they're definitely considering it. I think 513 is a good spot to start. As far as the numbers on Red Skull, again, you're not seeing them in a whole lot of games, and the cube gains are not that great. Not bad at a 0.45 when seen, but you'd like to see it a little bit higher. Next card we got on the list is Polaris. Polaris, I think, is one of the stronger 3-cost cards in the game. She's got a lot of power behind her, and she actually can manipulate the board. When you jump over to the numbers, she's in the top echelon of games seen. 15.8% of games seen. Outside of Shang-Chi and Nebula, a lot of these other ones are in the 15 to 23-ish% range. Polaris is probably the most controversial of the ones that I've got on this list. As a 3-5 who moves something to your location, there's a chance that you could have a net power loss or barely any gain. I'm looking at Polaris's true power here as shifting a card and additionally potentially getting a miles cheaper after that. So you're talking about 4 costs for potentially like 10 power, which seems to be pretty strong. And again, the numbers behind this, she's up there. The other 3-cost cards on here, you've got Wave, which right now is insanely, I think, one of the strongest, I don't want to say OP, but one of the stronger control cards in the game. Killmonger, who we've also got on the list, I think he's always brought in everywhere. In the future, I think we'll look at something like, I don't know, what do you think? A 3-2 on that? I could see that changing. Storm is another one. I could see her being 3-1 as well. Mystique, I wouldn't touch. I think she's fine as is. But the on reveal, you've got some other things that need to happen for her to do what she needs to do. And then you've got Polaris. So we were talking about this a little bit on the Discord. I think Polaris is a potential debatable one here, but I wanted to leave it on the video for now. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Do you think nerfing her to a 3-4 or maybe a 2-4, would that be too much for this card? And we were talking like, does it actually buff Galactus? When I'm thinking about Polaris and Galactus, I'm thinking about moving the card to the location where Galactus can no longer play. So I'm taking a big play away from an opponent. And typically when I've got Polaris in a deck, I'm considering at least pairing her up with Miles. So that's a lot of power for minimal cost. More that we think can be added to this list. We got a little teaser from Glenn here. Absorbing Man doesn't get a ton of play. Now, I do think that he might start popping up more with high evolutionary and the negative affliction builds, but it looks like they think that he might be due 1 more power, and I think they hit the mark with that power. I think a 4-4 there's good. Last card on the list for this week is going to be Punisher, another ongoing card that I think could use a little bit of love. Punisher seems to really fall off after that initial early game, but we do know that Second Dinner is really unlikely to touch these type of cards because they really like where that early game play is at. I had this one on the list, so I wanted to at least leave it for the time being. The numbers behind it, it does not get a lot of play. Again, it is at the bottom section of this. So when you're talking about those early game cards, similar to the Hawkeye one, I think Punisher might be one that Second Dinner could consider tweaking just a little bit. As we look into the future of potential changes on here, we've mentioned Baron Mordo in the past, Kingpin, Human Torch, Arch, Multiple Man. We've mentioned Angel in the past. All cards that could be getting a little bit of love. Some of these newer cards, we still want to see them play out. Snow Guard is definitely on the list for something that needs an eventual change. Overall, I'd say the balance in the game is actually pretty solid. When I was looking at these for this week, I was really like, man, I don't know how many of these I'd really want to change. They're all pretty good. And a lot of the cards that I'm looking at, early game cards, which Second Dinner has mentioned, they don't really want to touch. So to me, the meta is in a decent situation. And if Second Dinner keeps it here, I think that's not a bad thing. We certainly have the Galactus things they're talking about. I'm still insanely worried about what they're going to do with that card and the precedent it's going to set for big bad 6,000 token cards and how they might potentially change, which in turn is going to cause players to be worried about spending on them. So quick video today. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. What sort of OTA changes are you looking for in the future? We'd love to hear your opinions on the Discord as well, which is in the description below. If you want to help support the channel, hammer down that like button, share with your aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, neighbors, grandma, grandpas. Anyway, till next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.